Good afternoon and welcome. Do you have a dream that makes you so energized, so happy? Just think about it, that every single day you wake up with the determination of making it a reality. Or do you feel like your life has just turned out a little bit too gray? Perhaps it is the dream that once you had when you were a little child, that thing that every single day you will wake up and you will play with your friends and pretend you were doing exactly that thing. What happened to it? Where did it go? There's like a point in your life where suddenly everything just turned a little bit more bland, and here you are, working for money, right? What about tapping again onto that dream? What about maybe just finding something else if you feel like you have no clue on what this thing is lying dormant? Because it is inside of you. Definitely it is inside of you. It's just that perhaps life has just taken a bit of a toll on you and everything became flat. But you just have to dig a little bit and you'll find it right below your feet. And for today's presentation, I would like to talk about one of the most valuable higher faculties we possess, and this is the higher faculty of fantasy, and how this connects to burning desires. Now, I would like to honor this presentation in the name of Jim Rohn, Mr. Jim Rohn. He was a fantastic motivational speaker and entrepreneur. He was the student of Mr. Earl Shove. Mr. Jim Rohn, he would always say that in life, if you are to achieve success, you have to dream big. You have to dream big, and at times you really mean like very big. Now, we have talked about previously on the higher faculty of imagination, and you will say, well, imagination and fantasy, they sound kind of the same, but there is a big difference between the two of them, and they both connect on the same principle, and that it is a channel from which infinite intelligence can manifest. For those who are not very well familiarized, please take a look at the video on infinite intelligence. But shortly put, it is all of these ideas and energy that exist around us that at times show up in the form of a hunch. Now, imagination is when we have these ideas that manifest in terms of something that seems a little bit difficult perhaps, because you have to develop these things, but it is not unrealistic. And the higher faculty of imagination, just shortly described, is composed of two things, or in two different ways. And one is creative imagination and synthetic imagination. Synthetic imagination is when you combine concepts, ideas, tools in order to create something that can work out a bit more easily, or can make your life easier, or for whatever purpose you are looking for, you develop a new piece of something. Creative imagination is when you have to build some concept or tool that's completely new. No one has ever thought about it. It's something that you have to develop from ground zero. And it can be as well like just concepts too, not necessarily a tool. And you'll say, well, but what is fantasy then? Fantasy is the projection of imagination through a different reality than you're living right now. What does this mean? We have to add one last concept into all of this table or contents in order for this to make more sense. And we have now and then talked about what I call the eternal community. This is a concept given unto us by Alfred Adler, Dr. Alfred Adler, and he would say that we live always in communities, and communities are composed of animate elements like people that are alive, like you and I, inanimate, that can be objects that exist all around us, or dead people or dead beings, time and space. And the combination of these things can lead to events, which also you share in this community. The eternal community is the largest community there is, and this is the one that we share from the beginning of humanity till the end. And for this I'm mostly referring for humanity, but you can go even bigger than that. That could be the universal community that's composed of all solar systems, all life that's intelligent, or maybe not as intelligent, in the universe. And you could even go bigger than that with multiverses and so on and so forth. The whole idea is that everything has a purpose, and everything is here to fulfill a paper on something and part of the universe, even if that is as simple as moving all of this set of atoms from point A to point B, and when you die, these atoms will serve a crucial purpose into the life of the universe. It knows everything. Infinite intelligence knows everything, and it travels throughout this. Now, fantasy is when you pick up an idea that seems unrealistic. Let me repeat that. Your higher faculty of fantasy is when you receive an idea from infinite intelligence that is unrealistic right now. You could say, I want to fly, just like this. Well, this seems pretty much impossible, and we have proven that it is pretty much not doable. But that could be perhaps because right now is not the right moment, or we have not developed the tools in order to achieve that. And you will say, what kind of nonsense is that? Let me give you an example. The higher faculty of fantasy was used by people perhaps 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, or even farther on time, when they wanted to develop a machine that could allow us to fly. That seemed completely unrealistic. No one could imitate that of the birds. Throughout time, we started to develop tools that slowly made it realistic. It was challenging, but from fantasy it turned into imagination, into the use of imagination. Through the use of synthetic and creative imagination, the Wright brothers created the machine that could allow us to fly, the plane, basically. From an idea that once seemed impossible or unrealistic, at some point throughout the eternal community of space and time, we found a way to make it a reality. And what does all of this have to do with dreams? Have you ever had a dream when you were a child that right now you think of being pretty much impossible? That is when you're tapping into your higher faculty of fantasy, because you have received an idea of something that seems unrealistic right now. What matters here is that it gotta be something that activates your heart, that makes it feel very energized, that makes you feel very alive. That's when you find motivation in your life towards pursuing something. When you don't feel this, it's probably something that just it's passing by and you kind of tuned into it. And you should probably let it by and let someone else take it and them becoming energized by it. That's going to be their purpose, perhaps not yours. And throughout the history of our eternal community, there have been many people that have used their faculty of fantasy to pick up on these ideas and develop things towards the attainment of them. Yet we need to understand one thing. When you're tapping into the higher faculty of fantasy, as I mentioned now a couple of times, it is something that seems very unrealistic. That's not impossible, but it is infinite intelligence choosing you as well to say you are a worthy vessel that can make this idea a reality at some degree. At times these things are just completely offhand and you will not be able to fulfill them in your lifetime. But you will become what is called a flame bearer. This idea as a flame is showing you the path towards where the goal is, what can be obtained, and you become so obsessed about the possibility of making it a reality that you don't really care if you know that you may not be able, or you may not be the one making it an absolute fruition, but that you may be able to carry that flame and or that seed and pass it into the next person that will receive also that thought, that idea. That slowly from fantasy it turns into imagination, where more people, because it's not just you, there's a lot of people that are receiving multiple ideas from infinite intelligence. You can imagine a line of people just passing this flame, passing it down, and at the end it narrows. This is different tools, this is different concepts, different ideas, and at the end the very last person uses their faculty of synthetic imagination to pick up on all of these things and put it all together. But everything is coming from very far, from the same eternal community, but from different points of time and space, from different living individuals, from different objects, from different ideas, from infinite intelligence that's living throughout. Infinite intelligence sees everything and understands everything clearly, but it's just looking for these vessels that will put this into fruition. And as mentioned before, those who start this thing, there's a timeline. This over here is fantasy, because they know they will not be able to make the plane 1,000 years ago, but they start with some thoughts, some ideas, some inspiration that pass it down, and people become obsessed by it. They become infected by that burning desire that they once all shared. Not just one person, but all of the people that had the same or similar idea, because some others will develop different concepts, different angles on how to approach this problem, how to solve it. And it all narrows down into one or few more individuals that will finally put it all together and make it a reality. Jim Rohn was a bearer of the flame. He, along as many other motivational speakers that would be developing this concept of self-help, have been trying to find the key for success. And you kind of start to look a little bit around, and you will see people such as Bob Proctor, you will see Mr. Napoleon Hill, Mr. Earl Nightingale from the past, even philosophical figures. They were talking about similar things, just in different concepts. And if you start realizing it comes from all around space, all around time, different times of time, and it's similar ideas that were passed down through different angles towards the attainment of the same goal: how to achieve inner peace, how to achieve happiness, how to achieve success and wealth. The position of Mr. Jim Rohn was that perhaps more oriented as economical wealth, but nonetheless he understood very well that it could lead for inner peace and inner happiness and inner health as well, just like Bob Proctor, more holistic. Now it's becoming more modernized. We have the tools to understand what people were talking about thousands of years ago. Do you have a dream that you think it's childish? Do you have a dream that you think it's impossible to fulfill? What about you become so obsessed on the idea of trying to make it a fruition? You never know. Now technology is developing so fast that things that seemed impossible will very quickly turn into reality. We're having AI. How crazy is that? You're talking to something that feels almost like a person, and just very, very soon this will turn out to be even smarter, even more efficient, even more natural. It can create all kinds of things already. There's quantum computing just in the corner as well, and that will create huge leverage on what kinds of technology we can develop. And there's many other different areas on science or psychology that are just finding breakthroughs over and over. There's so many people that are doing exactly the same thing. All of this concept is passing down from fantasy to an understanding of imagination, from creative to synthetic, to a point where it just becomes so clear because someone became so obsessed about that one thing, that passed it down, and now this concept has become synthesized, very clear, and now it's used as a tool to create something wonderful. What about you're also one of these bearers of the flame? Now you'll say, well, isn't it a bit sad to think that you will not see it come to fruition? I think Jim Rohn knew it very well. He knew that he did not have the absolute key for that. Else everyone around in the world will find absolute peace and happiness and health. Neither Bob Proctor, they knew very well they were but a humble ambassador of this information, just like Errol Shove was to Mr. Jim Rohn. They're passing this to you. I'm grabbing their flame and I'm hoping to also pass it down to you. To find knowledge that you can synthesize by your own experience, you may find something extremely valuable that others need to know, that others could benefit from. And even if it's the wildest of your dreams, it does not necessarily have to be an idea, it could be a tool. Now we're talking about the opposite. Maybe you want to create something, but you say it's pretty much impossible. I think a great example is Dr. Albert Einstein. He used his higher faculty of fantasy to imagine what it will be to sit on a photon and go at such speed. And he was not the greatest physicist or mathematician, really. He actually knew very little of these things, but he had a great faculty of fantasy. What seemed very much impossible in terms of knowledge and ideas, he bridged that gap. And he died, and a lot of his theories that were still not proven eventually turned out to be proven after his death. Think about it. Think about how wonderful that is, that his presence is still alive throughout the eternal community. That people become inspired by him and also develop this higher faculty of fantasy into pushing humanity into higher places, higher goals, higher achievements. Tap into your fantasy. Tap into those dreams you had when you were a child. Use them to make yourself feel so energized that you wake up and you say, I want to find a way to bridge that gap. And who knows, maybe you will experience it as well. We never know. No, we don't know the future, right? And a lot of people for sure may have developed things that once seemed to be impossible, and they just managed to close that gap absolutely. You have infinite potential energy. You can achieve pretty much everything you want, and especially if you tap into your fantasy and imagination. If you use your sixth sense of receptivity to obtain these ideas. And when you find something that makes you feel so energized, your life becomes that. You start to think every single day about, wow, what if I could close that gap? What if I could make it happen? What if I became the pioneer? Because maybe it's just so difficult. But what if I started it? What if I was the one that dared, that took the first step? That told people I'm not scared. That understood that's not being a fool, but that's being a hero. It all starts somewhere. It all starts from the most minuscule of steps. Don't forget those dreams you had as a child. That child still lives within you. And I think it will be very joyful and hopeful for you to take that step towards those achievements. I know that very deep inside, it's something that you will really like. And maybe throughout your hobbies or your routines, habits, it still lives on. And at times you will see it kind of resurfacing. Maybe something from a book, maybe a movie, something or that someone said. and inspired you and made you think a little bit about it, and then you start to go over it, and then you say, ah, no, it's just grace, it's just childish. No, no. If you choose to ignore that, you will remain down. Think about it. It's only you who's stopping you. You can dream as big and as wild as you want. There's nothing stopping you. Your fantasies is really, it's infinite. Infinite intelligence is ready to give you the wildest dreams you want. If you prove your worth, that you can start making even the tiniest step towards that, infinite intelligence will give you everything you need. It will show you the way. It will not just make you Albert Einstein and make you genius, but he understood very well that if he was to think like that, he had to learn something from a specific source. That's infinite intelligence showing you the way. It says, you need these resources. You need to go here. You need to do that. But it's guiding you. It's taking you. Align with it. Align with fantasy. See yourself as your most fulfilled and realized version. What are they doing? How did they get there? They were once you. And you will be them. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that you find that dream that's dormant, that's absolutely certain to be right under your feet. You just need to take out that dust. Uncover those old fantasies you had when you were a child. Embrace them. Take them forth. And all kinds of sub-products which are positive will emerge. When you start to do that thing that you're so passionate about and that you're relatively good at, which most likely will be, you will obtain happiness, health and wealth. You will figure out the ways to obtain them. They just don't magically happen, but you, out of your survival instinct of achieving that, or failing absolutely, will push you towards that obtainment. Throughout your sixth sense from infinite intelligence, you will receive everything you need. From beautiful Iceland, I wish you the best, and for you to be on well.